Hi Bookish Besties, it's your girl Lyndsay coming back from you all the way from New York. She's back in Michigan, she's made it all the way back home safe and sound, and we're exhausted. The caffeine and the pizza carried us, I won't lie, but it took a minute to get back. So I figured many people are doing their book hauls, but I don't have as many books as all these people do because I am a travel light kind of girl. So instead we're going to do a bit of a book haul, not book haul, a bag haul, and we're going to unpack and you're going to help me, and we're going to talk about all the fun things that came with BookCon this year as an individual who it was their very, very first book convention. It was their very first solo trip to New York, and who also was in general admission. So I feel like I have a pretty decent way to give some insight to anybody maybe considering getting a ticket for their first BookCon adventure next year, which is going to be held, I believe they said, April 10th and 11th next year at the Javits Center again. So really quickly here, let's put up our hair. We're gonna get a little sweaty down and dirty with this, and we are gonna get right to it, shall we? So first and foremost, I do want to say that I know there's a lot that happened with BookCon. There is a ton of discourse, there's a ton of inquiries, a lot of people have differing opinions. My overall opinion is I had a ton of fun. I don't know about anybody else's opinions. Please sound off, have a discussion in the comment section. That's what we're all about doing here. Everybody's information, by the way, before I get going, because I'm going to show all the things I got, I will tag everybody and link all of their socials, their websites or shops, all down below. That way if you're curious about supporting them or you're curious about finding them, you can do that yourself. But I was adopted by this really sweet PA for the author G.K. DeRosa. The PA's name is Sara. We happened to be flying out of the same airport and the same airline at the same time and ended up accidentally sitting together, which was really funny. And so we both came in on Thursday, and I basically wanted a day to acclimate to the city. Again, this was my very, very first time in New York, so I wanted to have plenty of time to experience it a little bit like a tourist since I wasn't going to have a whole lot of time. But I still wanted to have a chance to explore some sites from a lot of friends that have gone and have recommended places for me. So there were a ton of activities that I did on Thursday. Friday, I did the same kind of thing, a bunch of touristy things, and then Saturday and Sunday were BookCon days. So BookCon day 1 was on Saturday, and I decided that I wanted to cosplay. And I said pockets, because my cosplay is like an OC that I came up with back in 2025, very like water elemental. Think like you find this girl at a port, like she's carrying around stuff, she's trading with the locals, you know, she's maybe a little mischievous, but it's nothing too crazy. And I added a ton of pockets everywhere, so we're also unloading all these things. I had extra sports pants on underneath that had pockets in them. I had all, like, literally everything in this amazing piece that had like, it has like 3 or 4 separate pocket tiers to it. So I just literally shoved everything I needed into these for like immediate access. And then I had my sports pants, kind of like shorts underneath, so that way if I needed to have my phone in there I could easily access it. Could just move on with life. Oh look, my first little treasure! This came from the shop 3 Little Yarns. This is a cute little axolotl. They had a ton of really, really amazing pieces. They had, literally everything was from really small items, like the axolotl. They had crabs, turtles, chickens, all the way up to some really big pieces that I saw people walking around with. I think it was like called a sneap in a cage. That was they had it set for like a bale. It was a really immersive tent that they set up so you could actually walk into it. I adored their work. But day 1, doors opened at 10, to preface. If you've never been to a convention before, I've been in the hospitality industry for years, so like working conventions isn't an abnormal thing for me. I know what goes on a lot behind the scenes, so I knew I needed to show up early, but I also wasn't dedicated enough to show up so early that I could be in the front of the lines. I didn't know how ARC drops were going to work as a normal girl showing up. I didn't know if there was going to be like randomized or it was going to be first come first serve. I wasn't entirely sure what that process was going to be. The line was astronomically long. Everybody obviously can see it. I'll probably insert some photos and pictures in here, but it was diabolically massive. They had it, a lot of the line situations that they set up throughout the venue were very much like snake zigzag. Nobody really knew how the lines were going to be once we were all released. VIPs, from what I recall, were supposed to enter off on the right side. There were different signs that they could enter in the side or up at the very front. Right away, they just had to show their ticket or their badge, and they got about an hour early access. I had no complaints about getting into the building personally. I didn't go to the 3rd floor. I knew that's where the chaos was going to be, and I literally walked in, I saw it, I walked around the edge, and I saw the lines forming and the chaos happening, and I personally did not get involved. So maybe my experience was better because I did not get involved with that. For over 500 people, at the very least, it did not, that was surprising to me, to get through security on day 1, to get through with all of my gear, which I was concerned might be a problem because of all my metal and all my stuff that I had on me. I had a light, I had a TV, I had a little stand, I had my phone, extra batteries, all the stuff. I also had a Polaroid camera. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to make it through, okay. I had nothing to do for about 45 minutes, so I literally just tried to comb the floors and try to identify everything from the maps that they had given us. If you've never been there and you haven't seen, like, the layouts or anything like that, basement floor was indie alley. They had some vendors down there, and then they had all the author signings in the back. So you're looking at it in this big square. Indie alley, all the main indie authors are here. A lot of vendors are here with some extra panel rooms, and then like the back third was just dedicated to author signings. 2nd floor, I guess, was like the main entrance. That was like ground level, and then that didn't have a whole lot to it because that was just where you walked in. 3rd floor was where all of the chaos happened, because that was where the publishers, that was where all the vendor houses were, all of the sponsors with their big booths, that's where they had their stuff set up. And that was very, very tightly packed. It was like a conference ballroom situation, but it was nowhere near big enough, in my opinion, for proper line management, for coordination. They recommended people get there to ARC stations and stuff 30 minutes before. You probably needed more than that. I will say this book community truly surprised me. I did not expect the outburst. I did not expect the chaos that happened. We are all human beings, and it genuinely surprised me with how we all interacted with one another for the con drops. It's like no one's been outside of the house before or knows how to interact with people, and it was scary. For a lot of people that I talked to, it was their very first book con experience, like myself, or it was their very first con experience in general. They've never been to one before. And so to see that happen, like mosh pit, you're going to a Youngblood rock concert and you're watching a mosh pit happen in the center. But he wouldn't even allow that to happen if it causes injury to somebody. And for an ARC book, my thing is, the books are going to come out. The ARCs are meant for promotions. The ARCs are meant to be a great way to get people involved and get excited. But I'm also really disappointed because I've seen people that got ARCs, that got them signed, and are now selling them to people that did genuinely try to get in and get those. And I feel like that's use and abuse. As somebody who is trying so hard with her event company to be really supportive of independent authors and create a safe space where you can go and, promote your work, get involved with readers or get involved with different creators, seeing the chaos that happened with the ARC drops probably was, on day 1, the worst part of the experience. And I wasn't involved with it. That was just what I saw, and from people that I talked to, I personally only got one ARC, and I think it might even just be like a preview. It's maybe not even an ARC book, like a complete piece. I feel like we worked so hard, so many people in this community worked so hard to set the record straight and to showcase the good parts of this community and to stand up for one another in this community. And it's just really frustrating to see that that did not happen. We, quote, lived up to the expectations of all the bad things that we're trying to argue against or say like, yeah, we're not like that. So the end of my spiel with the ARC drops that I'm not really going to come back to is do better. If you're going to a book con or you're going to a convention that is surrounded by books in the community and there are ARC drops happening, do your very best to get the schedule, but otherwise keep supporting the independent authors or the authors themselves that are dropping the books, and just know you will get a book eventually. If you truly are excited about the book, you should be getting the book when it comes out naturally, whether or not you get an ARC in general. That's my opinion. If you don't like it, be an adult. I don't know what else to say. But I do have a couple of fun things here. Magic's Happening was an incredible booth. She had so much chaos happening leading up to, Saturday, day 1 for her. And I've been following all of her products for a long time. Her name is Emily. She's such a sweetheart. And her dad, bless this man, was working his butt off in this booth. She does everything from, aromas, oils, candles, to hair clips and bookmarks and all the things. She does everything you can think of for basically all of the fandoms. I saw Divergent, Lord of the Rings, I saw my favorite Supernatural, you had the classic ACOTAR, Sarah J. Maas, and various other things. So it was basically for the fandoms, by the fandoms. That's what her booth is designed for. I got her Supernatural candle set, and what's really great about this is it's got 4 small size candles that you can burn with different aromas based off the story. So if you've ever seen Supernatural, I'm a huge fan. I'm currently dragging my registered MMC, my registered boyfriend, through the series for the very first time, and he's loving it right now. He's a Sam girly, I'm a Dean girly. It's okay. We still love each other. This set that she's created has what's called Salt and Burn. Love it. Dean's Pie. Hello. She did not forget the pie, Sam. She did not forget the pie. We have Baby, of course, the classic, real main character of the story. And then we have Demon's Blood, which I'm very excited about. So of course, I had to get a hair clip. I am a hair clip girl. I'm also bandana girly, so anytime I can get it, I can. And she has a little cauldron, which I feel like would be perfect because, little plug, I'm hosting a Back to the Laris Midnight release party in October for the Avatar 6 release. So I am very excited to be wearing this while I am working that party for everybody. I was also super excited about, I can officially unravel it. TSA was very confused by what these things were, but I'm still very excited about them. I am so excited that I got to go around and see so many friends that I met at the Everflame Ball back in 2025. That was my very first immersed experience in a book event. I was a volunteer coordinator for it, but I met so many incredible people from that event, whether it was Cassie from Book and Gather Co., Erin from Spare and Wild, Lauren, and then Sara, who runs Wick, and I was so excited to see her booth, all gloriously set up. She had an amazing team there helping her coordinate the whole shebang, and I was going around smelling all the things, and it was so amazing to be able to actually smell these things that I have seen everywhere and dreamed about and only smelled like once, and I was like, ugh, I miss it, and now I actually got the chance to hold it. And so for some comfort, I'm a huge fan of Throne of Glass. It is one of my favorites of the Sarah J. Maas universe. If you look on her site, it's got this amazing aroma to it, and we geeked out probably for 15 minutes because I went to culinary school, so I understand the balance of like flavors and aromas and things like that in a little bit of a cousin-esque, like just barely associated. I get it when she explains it. And this just has the attitude of Manon, so I'm very excited to have that. And then I got to the Everflame Ball because I was watching for a long time the Fantasy Fangirls podcast. Lexi and Nicole, oh my god, hello, I love you girls so much. You are the light, the shining light in the industry, in my opinion, right now, in terms of podcasts or in terms of just setting up and building your own community. You are really paving the way for so many people to follow behind you, and I hope you understand that. Sierra was featuring Your Ladies Candles. I'm a huge fan of both Lexi and Nicole. I'm so immensely proud of them. I'm so proud of Nicole, the romantic at heart, but I've always been the researcher. I've always been the lore nerd. I've always been the person that likes the world building. That's what draws me into books, especially fantasy. And the second I cracked this baby, I knew I had to get it because I've always felt deeply connected to Lexi, even though I'm only 21 years old. I've always felt deeply connected to the things that she says when she gets extremely vulnerable or gets really passionate in her episodes. I'm just thrilled that I was able to get that. So I will probably get the romantic at heart for Nicole in the future, but at the moment I'm very excited to have those. So thank you so much, Sierra. To this lovely tea. I am a enemies to lovers, friends to lover girl. I am in that storyline right now with my own main character. But A Slow Burn, I feel like, was just a classic. Storylines by Saf. She was kind of a last-minute addition to the BookCon crew, so I was very excited to see her booth, see everybody. Brittany, hi babes, all set up, all in their PJs and all comfy cozy. They gave me a cute little tattoo. Thank you. Savannah is an incredible person. She's been running this company for a decent amount of time, and she does these incredible high-quality pajamas, which I think are amazing. They sold out so quick on BookCon because at the end of the night they were doing a Princess Diaries themed party. PJ party, so I think it was only fair that they sold out on day one. And then my last piece at the moment that I will get to later, but my last piece that I want to shout out is for the Snail Mail Society. With my brand of Lil Bug Events Company, I am really into my characters. You know, I've got Polly, I've got Marigold, and then I've got my lovely friend Dusk, and each of them are their own. They are very much like inspired by nature. Oh, I didn't even see the embroidery on the wrist. It says keep buzzing. That's so cute. The Snail Mail Society is an incredible mental health organization to bring you back to looking forward to something in the mail. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Lovely Snail Mail crew. But you get a letter once a month in the subscription process, and you get some, like this next month is May. They're themed around the flowers and everything. and you're going to be getting like a flower in it, and that identifies what the future is going to hold for you, kind of horoscope based, but then she has different goals for you to accomplish throughout the course of the month, and side quests, and different affirmations and positive notes for you, and you can pick from various selections, and there's so many different packets out there. You can send one to a friend, things like that. And I thought it was a really incredible way to connect with people. I thought it was a really great way to bring back that engagement element that we lose sometimes between connecting through our phones. Sometimes with that great connection comes this vast divide that we tend to lose ourselves in. And Snail Mail Society is supposed to be a way to bring that back. So I thought that was very sweet. I was their very first purchase of the crew necks, so I was very honored to be the first purchaser of that. So now that I'm done babbling about all the many things that I got in my lovely haul, next floor above 3, 4, and that was all of like the conference meeting rooms that they had for the panels. 5 was where they had the main hall for like the big party, spotlight events, things like that. So you have basement, independent alley, second floor is just navigation with the escalators and elevators, and then you had third floor with the vendor market, publishers, bookstores. Fourth was a lot of the additional meeting rooms and grove, and then at the very top you had the big meeting space. I had a decent amount of panels that I wanted to attend, so I guess we'll start at the very bottom on that basement floor with the indie alley there. I will say that the independent authors that I was able to talk to and interact with and meet with were all very, very sweet. I had a wonderful time with every single one of them. I know within a day, many of the independent authors actually were selling out of books, and they had little QR codes that they had set up with discount codes for people that wanted to buy them that day. I know there was one author that I talked to. She had a really rough day because of where she was located. There was like A, B, C, D, E, F. There was like 6 columns, I believe, of different authors set up, and it's like you have them on back-to-back sides. You have like one against the wall, and then you have a line here, and they're here and here, right? Down a strip. And she was on like the far end side and wasn't getting any traffic because everybody comes in down over here on the floor plan, right? And they're not coming all the way over to find her. And there were a few authors that were sadly unable to make it, so there were booths that were empty. She was actually able to negotiate with staff for the second day to be able to move up, and I know within like 10 minutes she made her first sale and ended up making a decent amount of money. I also know that some authors just didn't feel like they were the right fit for the BookCon crowd. Again, BookCon had an aesthetic very well designed for their brand and for their company, but it was very much pushed towards fantasy or romance the most. Authors that I did talk to that were leaning more sci-fi or were leaning more towards a blur line between like academia, and they just had a hard time getting themselves out in those positions. It also costs a lot of money to have a booth set up there, and then it costs a lot of money to make an extravagant booth. And if this was like your first convention as an author, big scale, and you didn't have the pieces already put together beforehand, it can get really daunting when you look at the price tag of like, okay, well, if I get a backdrop or a big poster, what's that going to cost me to transport it and then set it up and then transport it back? And I know some people printed certain things like day of or like a few days before, brought it there, and then traveled with it back so they could reduce some costs. But it's a challenge when you're thinking about all these other technicals that go into setting up a booth for it. And I've been on that side where I have to set up a booth. I have to know the costs going into something like that. And it gets up there very quickly. It's not poor planning if you don't know. It's a learning experience. And so I think it was great for a lot of people, but I know it wasn't a best experience for everybody. So indie authors went through that challenge quite a bit. I know there were a lot of vendors that had a very similar situation, whether they were a business and they didn't have something to sell and they were just promoting their services. There were vendors that had physical products to sell, tended to be doing better than those that didn't have those, and authors that tended to lean more towards the fantasy, romantasy, or just romance in general genre tended to be more on the profitable side as well. So it was just very much a challenge, and it was geared more in the age range from what I saw for individuals in like their late 20s to like early 40s was like the age range. Author signings was a very fun experience. You had to get reservations. That was something that I had never heard of before. Again, first con goer. I've heard of like authors doing pop-ups and you just show up and you get them, but I wasn't sure where all these authors were going to be. I didn't want to have my notifications bopping all day if people were going to be bouncing to other booths and maybe having to run. And I didn't know if all the authors I wanted to see were going to be doing that. and so they had reservations, and then the reservations were also very strict. Okay, so I grabbed a few things, ignore me, I had to walk away. My camera had to freak out. There were a few points with the author signings that I got frustrated when it came to the reservations. First and foremost, again, I was GA, and so when I found out when the reservation list was going to be open to general admission, they had it open to VIPs, I feel like 2 days beforehand, but they said that they were going to try and make them available for, like, have a decent amount set aside for GA to get for all of the authors, which, mind you, was a ton. They had over 30, I think they had 33 different tables for authors to do signings throughout the course of the day. And some authors, like, kept the same table and had different intervals throughout the course of the day, and others rotated to different tables. And so I got all of my reservations for the people I wanted to see, which was Chloe Gong, and Tahereh Mafi, RF Kuang, Marie Lu, I had GK DeRosa. Oh, and then I had Leigh Bardugo. There was so much going on, and there were so many authors. So with that in mind, the very first signing was very, very easy. I went to Chloe Gong in the morning. It was 10:45, I believe, is when the signing opened. BookCon did have some, like, rules that they were limiting the authors by, but it also was up to author discretion. No post pictures. You could take a photo of the author, but you could not pose with them. They limited, I think, most of the books. You could do 3 books, I think was the cap originally, and you could have 1 personalized. For, like, the first hour and a half, so 90 minutes approximately, that seemed to be what was pretty consistent. And I did what I called my Disney magic trick, and I basically toured around, and I got all of my signings from all of my authors this way. I got all of them signed here, and then I am a scrapbooker. Because of that, I brought my Polaroid, like I mentioned, and I took photos of booths that I bought from people that I thought were really cool and dressed up, and I took photos of my authors. So I got a photo of Tahereh. She was like, as long as it's quick, no worries. Marie Lu, same situation. I handed her my book. As she's talking, I'm telling her my thanks, and at the very end, I'm like, by the way, do you care if I take a photo? Sweet. I'm going to take 5 seconds to do that. I always had it ready and pulled out. If they wanted to say yes, I could just snap it, and it was already set up. If they said no, I would just back off and take the photo of them, not post. I had no books. I had 1 book, but I didn't really have any insane books or anything that had to be figured out. I always had it folded up. I already had my names on a sticky note personalized. I kept the whole day, and I just wanted 1 picture to be able to keep with me because I have the anxiety about bringing books. That was my way to ease my anxiety with that. So it was just frustrating to not be able to take a photo, and that time couldn't necessarily accommodate it, especially for people that fought to get reservations really badly or got very lucky to get a reservation. A lot of the panels that they had were freebies. You could walk in, it was just until the room was capped. Others were reservation, and you really had to fight for it. I ended up hanging out with a friend for a little longer period of time at the end of the day on Sunday, so I gave up my 1 reservation, so if somebody wanted to go to the page-to-screen panel, they could. Author signings was chaos. By day 2, they really had it well put together. The issues mainly with day 1 when it came to the author signing space was that a lot of the attendants of BookCon, the volunteers or staff, they weren't communicating between each other for the timing. There was issues getting authors down to the signing booths from panels upstairs because of chaos on the way down. Or accommodations that they needed. I know some people needed additional accommodations for their own health and wellness, and as a result it took them longer to get to the signing booth. They had to put extra restrictions on to make sure they could last for more people, and there were just a lot of miscommunications that happened that ended up making the limited space that was available for signings an absolute bloody disaster. They allowed standbys, and it wasn't clear where standby lines started for different authors because, again, you had, say, table 17 at 1:45 or Samantha Shannon, she's there. But then at 3:45 you have a different author. So you have to get through everybody for that previous author, and you either get a few standbys in to sign it before that time has to be, closed off for the next author, and then you have to communicate that to the standby people or not. It just became a hot mess very quickly, and I remember there was a point I was standing in the Tahereh Mafi line. We had, I think it was table 17 is where we were supposed to be. We had an author that was using the line for 17 to fill in extra, people in their GA so they could take off room off the floor. And so we weren't allowed to stand in it. And so we were standing off to the side, and they ended up pulling us off over to the side of the wall. And we ended up sitting there for probably an additional 20 minutes. And standby didn't know where to go. And for anybody that was walking in after they moved us, I have no idea if they found us or not. I know there were plenty of people that were coming in after we were already finally in the rows and the lines, and when she did show up, and people were very lost as to why, like, we were taking up an additional row. By Sunday, it was a lot more organized. They did have a better idea of what was going on. They had more structures in place. They had a lot more generally patient people working the lines with us down there. I think her name was Sassy. I want to shout you out if you're there, Sassy. Yeah, it was Leigh Bardugo. Line after the panel, I came down, and very, very sweet individual, and she's making it very clear, like, if you're VIP or ADA and you just showed up, please come to the front of the line. That way, once the thing opens, you can just go straight to the front. By the way, these are the number of books that are allowed to be here. By the way, this is allowed, you know, remember this, remember that. And I remember walking up to her, I'm like, by the way, thank you so much. I didn't see you here on the floor at all yesterday. She's like, I was not here at all on the floor yesterday. I was somewhere else. They brought me down here. So they rearranged staff to be in new places, which I think was very helpful. They had a lot more people that were capable of managing the high energy, the high stress. That was consistent from open until the end of the day. That was the chaos of that floor. I do want to shout out, because I did just think of them, because I was looking at their photo booth. There was one vendor I did not buy from because I'm going to buy in bulk. I think it was Gamer Girl Dice Company, really quickly, because they were on that floor. And I have very small ears. Don't know if you can see, don't know if you can tell, I have small ears, I have glasses, I have a lot of things impeding my ability to wear extra accessories when I do cosplay. My eyes get really reactive really badly, so I can't, like, wear contacts to walk around without glasses for a cosplay, and so now I don't have the ability to wear earrings. So every creator that has earrings in their booth, I can't get those. But these girls had the freaking best ear cuffs that fit on my ear so comfortably. But she literally was the sweetest. She said, we'll work with you on, like, making sure you get the one that you want. We'll work with you to make sure you have the piece that you need. And I just felt very supported and understood when I was explaining my struggles and how her designs were accommodating to that. It's not a disability by any means, but I know that for people that get overstimulated by weight on their ears, for people that get overstimulated by things dangling on their necks, they are designed and they're made with products that you don't get a reaction, you don't get a rash, they don't feel heavy on your ears. And for somebody that, again, wears glasses, even thick-rimmed ones before, these things would not interfere with that. They were designed in a way to hold up. I could shake my head and party and they're not going to fall out of my head, which felt freaking phenomenal, because sometimes the clip-on earrings hurt after a while for my baby ears that have, like, zero real estate there. So I just wanted to shout them out because they were an absolutely incredible team. I know I have a bunch of stuff in here because I'm also the person where when I do go to events, I get a lot of jewelry. From Boho Crystal Girls, they were very, very sweet. They had an incredible energy in their booth, I will say this. They had music bumping, they had a whole spread of things, they had a sign that openly, like, told them, one, who they were, and two, touch anything and everything. And I want to say thank you, Grace, for giving me the confidence to be able to go up to places and touch things and find energies and things like that. Elaine Grace Reads, if you haven't followed her, follow her, she's incredible. I got this cute little, it's like a whirl, but it was this amazing jade piece that they put together. I decided I wanted to get that. Literally, Lyndsay goes off of vibes, not based off what's going to help me. And this one they called, I think it was like Moonstone Jasper. Ah! I dropped it. I'm a skilled person. Moonstone Jasper. And what I like about this is I have I call it an issue. I get sets of, like, rings and things that I like to wear, but I also have really weird size fingers. Like, this is adjustable. This can fit around my thumb if I want to be that baddie for a night. This being a versatile piece that I can add to my collection is a very, very nice chef's kiss touch. So, the next thing I got was from Egg Artelier. I think third floor is where I bought this cute little, like, micro, I don't want to say it's crochet because I don't know what this stuff is. I want to say I'm a crafty girl, but I'm a crafty girl with, like, big things, not small things. But I'm a person that likes my bugs, okay? It is this really, really cute, tiny micro needle bumblebee. It's got a floppy wing, and I love it. It's a necklace, and it's super tiny. And it was from, I believe it was called Egg Artelier Handcraft. That I trust Lyndsay when she had caffeine in her. So this one was from Artelier Company. They were very fun. They had specifically done, like, trope necklaces, trope pendants. They had, like, a locket. Maximalist clunky necklaces, almost in a way. Like, very much charm-based, early 2000s vibes. and she had this really, really beautiful, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but I'm going to try, really, really beautiful, like, solar-esque ring, which I thought was a ton of fun, so I got that from her. And then, again, I'm into bugs, and so she had this nice little selection of just, like, pocketed necklaces and chokers and stuff like that off to the side, right up at the front. So I sorted through that, and because I found a bee earlier, I thought it would only be right to get another one if I wanted to match. So I got 2 from her. I talked to her for probably 30 minutes about her moss situation with her booth setup, because she was one that also had a really well done immersive booth station, but apparently the moss gave her an issue during setup day because it just kept shedding everywhere. This was my, so this is a preview. So this was my preview that I got. I did get a fun print from Kate Martin, author for the Soulless series. So I'm very excited to have this up. It gives me, honestly, Kaz Brecker vibes. If you know, you know. It kind of gives me those vibes a little bit with the stare. Yes, so this is Gamer Girl Jewelry. This is what I was talking about with my ears. This is their card. So Gamer Girl Jewelry. All of these I will have tagged below because I have all collected them. From creators to businesses, anybody and everybody that I talk to, I'm having you tagged below because why the heck not? But this is by Charlotte Plum, and it is Reap and Sow. She had an incredible banner outside of the BookCon building, so I am very excited to see this. It comes out October 6th. This was the only book. I'm very picky because, again, I was very tightly packed. You don't even want to know what my book bag looked like. It was chaos. So I only wanted to maybe get one book from an independent author, and I was very, very picky about who I was going to do. So I went up and down Indie Alley multiple times, and I kept coming back to this one, Traveler of the Heart by Elle Kish. This story blew me away when she was talking about it. More specifically, for Traveler of the Heart, what made me cry was the dedication. I'm the type of person when I read an ARC or I read a beta and there is a dedication page or there is a acknowledgement page, I read those first because I want to get emotionally involved right from the jump. And I know everybody reads the dedication page, but like I don't know, I feel like I read it differently. And this one just caught me, and it's, quote, "For every 20 or 30-something that fell back in love with fantasy novels after a 10-year hiatus, and now they're your whole personality, this one's for you." Also to my husband, sorry I straight up ignored you for months to write this. I laughed out loud at the table, and I literally grabbed it and I said, sign me up, I want this book. So this was the book that I purchased, and I'm very excited to get into it. It is about a 30-year-old mom who has an incredible husband, has kids, and has found herself falling into a crazy, crazy world. And it's full of magic and classic fantasy. And she now has to navigate her way back to her dream life or decide to stick it out with the new one that she has found herself in. And I feel like it's almost, I don't want to say like a coming-of-age story, but it's like a finding yourself again story, which I think is really fun to experience. I will say, one of my favorite things that BookCon did have was their, it was called The Grove on, I believe it was the 4th floor. My brain is like blanking because I just knew where to go all the time. I was just like, oh, I'm just going here today. And it was on the 4th floor, and they had a ton of spaces for you just to hang out. They had small activities, whether it was like map making or mixology for like mocktails, and book trading. So like if you had a book you wanted to trade or people got arcs that they didn't want, they could trade them for like other books at a station. And then they had a whole table of trinket trading, and I got a massive spread from people. That was the other thing. I bought a magazine from a really great friend from another really great friend. Sara, Cline, love you, babe. Hope baby is doing good. Vet bills are taken care of. Again, to a friend that I met at the book ball that I went to in August 2025. Rachel, who runs and works on the team for Romantasy Illustrated, and also Darling Embers. She's the creator, designer, Imagineer galore for that, and she had them as well because I was very excited. Again, I'm a FantasyFanGirls person, so I love casually, of course, the FantasyFanFellas. I started reading Mistborn. I think I'm less than an hour in finishing it. Now that I'm in it, I'm fully going to devour the FantasyFanFellas, but I love Steven Smashman, and I love Hayden, the amazing sanity manager for the Fangirls and FanFellas crew. And then my friend Sarah Cline was also in this edition, and so I had to get this because I wanted something that would be fun to read and fun to dive into and just see what the possibilities are like when it comes to magazines, because I think we are changing the game a little bit with magazine production. So I thought this was a fun piece to also get. So in terms of text that I got, many people got book hauls with arcs and books. I got trinkets and 2 books and goodies. I don't know, but I got so many fun little trinkets. I'm so excited with all of them. I mean, the art for so many of these is just gorgeous. I mean, hello. These are just beautiful, beautiful pieces. And the bookmarks I'm blown away by. It's insane. Oh, there's a little butterfly haircut. I'm a little precious princess. My favorite part, and that's why I saved it for last, was the panels. Truly, 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 they were my absolute favorite part of this event, because it gave you a chance to, one, get off your feet. You got to hear so many different perspectives in such a casual light. Yes, you had a moderator that was, you know, interviewing and just starting the conversations, but so many of them did try and be as engaging as possible, whether that was, you know, asking for questions from the audience previously. Leading up to the panel starting, they had guests coming up on the stage and interacting, which I thought was really fun. And then you obviously got to hear some of your favorite authors sharing their stories. And so, like, I got to see the spotlight for Leigh Bardugo as well as Kuang, both of which did make me cry, but honestly, the panels were a ton of fun. You got to meet with the FantasyFanGirls, which was a panel that was discussing the, you know, highs and lows, the different variations thereof with book boyfriends, and is that creating too high of standards, is that toxic? And they were inviting hot takes from people and from their fans, and they were like all feisty up at the top, and they were all bouncing off different opinions with each other, and those panels are what really made me feel like this is the point, this is why I'm here, this is what BookCon is all about, because those moments are what brought us together, you know, to be a writer and to be able to, you know, put pen to paper and to create these stories in these worlds that bring people together and are a bridge of connection, to have that power in your hands with words that creates this passion that's incited within us, whether it's about romance or fantasy or sci-fi, you know, from anything Andy Weir to R.F. Kuang to, you know, Rainbow Rowell, you know, whatever it might be. It's incredible that authors are able to have that impact on all of us, and then as a reader to be able to read those words and feel that passion and be connected to it in that way and come together. You know, authors, they bring us into these worlds and they create these subset communities that branch out, and they, like, you as one person might be a huge fan of this, but that's not a box that you're in, because you can be in so many other fandoms, and that's what's so cool about it as a reader, is you get to be in so many places at once, and the writers get to create so many more places for us. But then we all come together in this space, and that made BookCon so worth it for me, to be in that space and share those conversations with so many people. Like, yeah, I'm standing in the Leigh Bardugo log talking to people about the characters, but then we're talking about The Pit, or we're talking about different crime shows, or we're talking about different conventions that we've gone to, or we're talking about dating life, or we're talking about the local HOA dispute issues that we have. Like, it's incredible to have that connection and that creativity that's shared amongst all of us. And it's what I want to create in my space with Lil Bug Events Company, that belief that books bring us together. Books are the bridge to connection and engagement and humanity that's been missing for years. And I remember looking at BookCon at the very end and shedding a tear, because it's like, this was New York, and BookCon was a once-in-a-lifetime experience I may never go back to again. So if you're going to, you know, life or death situation, ask me, Lyndsay, would you recommend BookCon? I will say without a shadow of a doubt, yes. As somebody who attended New York for the very first time solo, as somebody who attended BookCon, a convention, like never been to BookCon before, never been to a book convention as a guest before, solo, yes, I would go. As somebody who went as a general admission, yes, I would go, 100%. I had a ton of fun. I did need to walk away a few times, but again, it's organized chaos. There's bound to be enough chaos when you have so many bodies in one room together, but that energy, that excitement is what builds this amazing energy that lasts through a whole weekend, is because of this community. And so without a shadow of a doubt, I would totally come again, and I am so excited to be in this community and to maybe attend again next year if I get the chance. It's so much fun collecting everything that I had and meeting all the people that I did, so I would say do it. So, but if you have any hot takes or you have any of your own opinions, please have discourse, have comments, have discussions in the comments below. I would love to interact and hear your guys' perspectives. and go through all of that. I will have more news coming soon about different events from Lil Bug Events Company, so keep an eye out on my socials for those announcements as well. I will have any of those links if you want to follow along down below in the description, so please check that out as well. Anybody that I have mentioned here or that is in this pile, I also have connected at least their socials down here as well. Please totally 110% do. I've tried to mention everybody that I can, but if I haven't hit everybody, I apologize! I'm having so much fun, you know, with the idea and brainstorming of this type of content here, so keep an eye out for more of those videos, but in the meantime, thank you so much, Bookish Besties, for coming in and listening to me unpack my lovely BookCon haul for 2026, and I can't wait to see you again in the future. Bye!